Thank you.
It's 3. I'll just do a quick check. So, hi, welcome everyone. This is our afternoon session on a transformative tool called Water Sensitive Compass. And we have a great audience present right now. We have the team of Water4Change, and we also have experts who were with us throughout the entire process. And this tool is very much co-created by the stakeholders from the 3 cities, Bhuj, Bhopal, and Kozhikode, and we have also experts, the domain experts who've been working with us. Meanwhile, a quick instructions. If all of you people who are joining us could write the name of your organization next to your name, it would be great. You could also use the chat box to introduce yourself, and we can use this as a platform to network and engage. If there are any questions during the conversation when Tanya is presenting, you could type your questions in the chat box, and I would then compile it and then ask those questions to Taneha after the presentations. If there is a certain question to a specific audience, to a specific panel, you could write that name as well, and I can direct it to towards the end. Yeah. So someone, Tanya, you had to say something?
No.
Okay. With that, so thank you so much for joining from all parts of the world. So I will pass over this stage to Taneha and Professor Kansal, who are also here. They are the team leaders of this project from the Dutch side and from the India side. I would first give the stage to Professor Kansal to introduce this project and the role of DST and how is this consortium been set up, and then pass it over to Taneha. Thank you.
Good evening, Neha. Thank you very much for inviting me to introduce the project. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I, on my personal behalf and on behalf of Water4Change India Netherlands team, welcomes you to this online session being organized under the aegis of World Water Week on water sensitive compass, supporting urban transformation in developing countries. The Water4Change program is to suggest integrative and fit for purpose water sensitive design framework for livable, fast growing secondary cities in India. As most of you may be knowing, that India is a fast growing economy with rapid urbanization, wherein almost 35% of the population is in the urban areas. As much as 0.1 to 1 million towns, there are about more than 430 such towns in India, which are secondary cities. For such cities, our purpose is this research program is considering the 4 dimensions like the society, built and natural environment, infrastructure and technology, and governance, which are the key realms that determine the ability to successfully deliver the sustainable change in the country. It is a consortium of 11 institutions from India and Netherlands under the umbrella of DST-NWO collaboration, wherein more than 35 professionals and academicians from engineering, architecture, sociology, remote sensing and GIS, and machine learning backgrounds are working towards the sustainable Water4Change, that the fit for purpose guidelines for livable, fast-growing secondary cities. In fact, this project is a unique project, which is outcome of a sandpit workshop, which was held 5 years back. And it is a unique experiment of the DST and NWO, which has come out with a very renowned and prestigious outcome. With us, we have Dr. Sanjay Singh, who is the senior scientist from Department of Science and Technology, Government of India, who is looking after the section of the climate, energy, and sustainable technology. I think he can throw some highlights about this project. I request Dr. Sanjay Kumar to say a few words about this project. Dr. Sanjay Kumar?
I am not able to open my video. Yes, I think. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Yes, yes. Good evening, everyone. First of all, thanks for the Indian and the Dutch team for this wonderful workshop. Regarding this project, if we're talking about the Indo-Dutch cooperation, we have more than a decade cooperation between the Indian DST team as well as the Dutch side. This project is supported under DST and NWO call during the year 2018. We have announced a joint call, and the project is supported during the year 2019. As Dr. Kansal already informed about this project initiative, but other than this project, we are also cooperating with the Dutch side for the Clean Ganga and Agni Water and water disaster calls, which is recently launched. I'm not going to the details of this project because already Dr. Kansal already informed that the around 11 institutions, 5 from the Indian side and 6 from the Dutch side, are cooperating, and we are very, very hopeful that the initiative of this project will help for the Indian cities as well as Dutch cities to make more sustainable in terms of water. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sanjay, for gracing this event with your presence. I will also invite Monica to say a few words.
Yes, thank you, Neha, for this opportunity to also say a few words on behalf of NWO. And Sanjay and Dr. Kansal also already informed you a little bit about the project and the background of the program. So I'm going to skip over that part, but I wanted to speak a few minutes on the collaboration between India and the Netherlands in general. So the water-sensitive compass that this session today is dedicated to is one of the outcomes of the Water4Change program. And we already heard that this is joint collaboration between researchers in India and the Netherlands. And the unique and very interesting thing about this joint program is that it is funded jointly by DST, where my colleague Sanjay also already spoke a few words, and NWO, the Dutch Research Council in the Netherlands. We have a long-standing collaboration between research funders in India and the Netherlands, and particularly DST and NWO. And actually, since 2010, we've been running joint programs. A total of 22 projects have been funded. And in those projects, it's always the case that NWO pays for the Dutch researchers and DST pays for the Indian researchers. And then they are form together a consortium and do joint research together. This programming is always along the so-called WA agenda. So that is water, agriculture, and health. And those are 3 topics that are very important for India and for the Netherlands, and where we can learn a lot from each other and where we can really work together on those strengths of our countries. Within those research programs, we aim to stimulate strong, sustainable research collaborations between India and the Netherlands, and there is always a clear focus on high scientific and societal impact. So Water4Change, the project that we're going to speak about today, is actually one of our flagship programs within this collaboration. And it was funded through a call on urban water systems about 5 years ago. So the teams have been working together for almost 5 years at this point, and I have to say they're very successful. We at NWO, but I think my colleague Sanjay can also agree to that. We're very impressed with the results that we've seen so far of this project. You've worked under very difficult circumstances right at the beginning, about a week or 2 after your kickoff workshop that we had in Delft. COVID hit, there were lockdowns, you had to change a lot about your research project also. And for international collaboration, this was of course very difficult period. And I think what you were able to still make of the project and the outcomes that you've had are really impressive. But also within Water4Change, what I find very inspiring to see is the way that you work together. The teams, Professor Kansal mentioned, it was funded through a sandpit procedure, which means you really didn't know each other before you started working together. And we've seen over the past 5 years, those teams really come together as one collaboration unit, and the outcomes are quite impressive. So I'm really looking forward to hearing more about the water sensitive compass that you developed today. And thanks again for the opportunity to speak briefly today.
Thank you, Monica, for this very wonderful introduction and giving us and telling the world of how this collaborative experience look like. Because if in sensitivity we talk about collaboration, we were just practicing what we preach. So thank you for giving us the insights of how the sandpit look like. And both Dr. Sanjay and Dr. Monica, thank you for this. With that, I would like to, again, for people who have joined late, I would just like to introduce. So we are Water4Change team. Today, Dr. Tanya Bakin she's an associate professor at TU Delft and also the lead Dutch researcher for the project of Water4Change. And she will be presenting the tool, Water Sensitive Compass. That is one of the many products of this project. Apart from that, and so not to make this very theory heavy and just for Water4Change heavy, we have also invited 4 distinguished panelists who talk about the applications of such tools within their domains and how such tools can help to make governance, planning, and management easier. So with that, I would like to give the stage to Tanya.
Thank you so much, Neha. Thank you. And also on my behalf, thank you, Professor Kansal. Thank you, Dr. Sanjay, and thank you, Dr. Monica, for this wonderful introduction to our project. I'm going to share my screen now. Hope this works.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay, and it's full screen, right?
Yes, it's full screen.
Yes. So some of the points were already mentioned by our colleagues, by DSD and NWO. So just to give you now on a picture, our 11 knowledge institutions involved, 6 from the Netherlands, 5 from India, and especially our dear stakeholders, which are also present, some of them represented here today in the session from the cities of Kozhikode, Bhuj, and Bhopal in India. As you can see, we have a quite diverse scope of action in the project, and this is actually, it's manifested by the different disciplines involved, coming from the different knowledge institutes. We understand that the water question, the water challenge, it's by nature not only a interdisciplinary challenge, but most importantly, a transdisciplinary challenge. I'm going to come back to that later, which was the foundation of our Compass tool. So Water4Change program addresses the complex challenges of urban water systems faced by fast-growing secondary cities in India, and especially the point of transitioning to a condition of water sensitivity. What do we mean about that? So to engage with such a question, the secondary cities in India are many. They are the ones which are growing faster and without at moments without the same access to investments in terms of infrastructure improvement than, for instance, primary cities. So we took this approach and we select from the very beginning, from a research and action perspective point of view, to work on a synthesis way, so to understand what could be a pool of cities that could be representative enough of secondary cities in the Indian context. And therefore you see here the choice of Bhopal, a city of lakes in the hinterland, Bhuj, an arid city in central India, and then finally Kozhikode at the southern state, a coastal city. So we have 3, let's say, questions in relation to water. We have a coastal, we have an arid city, and we have a lake hinterland type of city. And you can see the beautiful landscapes that they have, the amazing as well vernacular traditional water management practices that historically they have been in place in the 3 cities. Sorry, and again, let's say the scope of water and not only in terms of challenges, but especially in the identity that water brings to those 3 different environments. So again, in a nutshell, we work with 12 PhDs, 11 plus 16 experts from 11 knowledge institutions working together. And I'm going to show you in a different diagram how this also informed the making of a compass, which is the, let's say again, the summary of all this effort on water sensitive design, governance, planning and engineering, and society. So the questions to the point of how actually cities can become more water sensitive. So what are the challenges? The fact that we have at the same time too much, too little, too dirty, and too unequal, especially water. So these, let's say, different dimensions that happen at the same time, they have to be addressed by design, meaning by planning, design, governance, and technology decisions, and especially going about understanding what have been the path dependencies, what historically the choices which were made, which led to the conditions that we have nowadays, and how from here we can transition to a different, let's say, to different qualities, to a different condition of our water systems to provide for quality of life and health, both to the environment and to society. So the program delivers an impact pathway that guides the compass tool to enhance society sensitivity and accountability towards water, but also to develop planning and design instruments, and especially to envision a new water sensitive type of governance that can actively foster inclusive, equitable, adaptive and integrated decision making. So we work in this combination of 4 domains. So as we synthesized in the choice of cities, archetypical cities from a climatic and physiographic point of view, we also synthesized the domains of the knowledge domains that we understood are key in the water question. So the governance, societal behavior, built and natural environment, technology, and infrastructural design. And they come in the making of our research informing the compass, which is the action, let's say the practical implication of the work that we have done in combination with our stakeholders, is to move between interdisciplinary co-production between the different domains, knowledge domains, but especially to do that in very close dialogue. That was what we have done in the past 4 years, in a very close dialogue with our different stakeholders. So in that sense, a transdisciplinary co-production, and leading us to be able to develop jointly guidelines, in that sense, fit for purpose, guidelines that actually can help support cities in their transition process to more sensitive, let's say, to a more water sensitive nature. So you can see here in a nutshell the type of work that we have done from an individual PhD research informing the science in the different domains, leading to providing input for the making of co-production workshops with between our scientists and our different stakeholders in the 3 case study cities. And then finally, with that, being able to develop jointly fit for purpose guidelines, policy guidelines for transitioning cities to water sensitive state, and a knowledge framework. The workshops which were key in the informing the compass, they brought together this idea of framing the transition, vision making, so where actually we would like to be in the future, what are the qualities which are important to sustain life, different forms of life in the future in an equitable way. How then from this vision, how can we co-design among all stakeholders pathways to achieve that vision, and what might be forms of upscaling the outcomes of that, also to different contexts, to different cities, to different secondary cities in the Indian context, but also most likely to other places that could learn from the experience, from the knowledge that we have been co-producing along this way. So you can see here, as Monica said, we started unfortunately with COVID, but that didn't stop us. We were able, thanks to our wonderful stakeholders, to hold workshops in a hybrid way between online and inside workshop settings. And that allow us in this workshop mode to achieve the condition of the compass that we have now. I think that because of time, I would just move to our compass. How am I with time, Neha?
Well, you have plenty of time. You have full 10 minutes, so
yes,
speed
okay.
and everything is fine. Please go ahead.
Okay. So then just to highlight what have been our scientific findings, so that the learning, I believe also that it's a very important notion, the notion of learning, of co-learning, of continuous learning, also how actually in the context of Water4Change program, since the very start, we understood that it's important to keep, let's say, in that sense, options open, to keep, to be able to produce to co-produce a process that would allow cities to continue evolving and to continue adapting to the challenge that they might face in the future. So the point of learning from each other, but also that cities are able to keep on that process of learning after, let's say, this 5 years of a very strong relationship by means of our program. So to keep the consortium, to keep the attributes of justice and equity at the heart, that's extremely important, to underscore democracy and the hydrocultural dimension in all the studies that we have done. So to have those qualities, those values, let's say, guiding how we are going about decisions. Primary findings also inspire the development of technology to deal with different spatial scales, effects to allow data integration. Extremely important, how do we handle data, how actually that will also allow, alongside with capacity building programs, would allow for better decision making, and again, to keep this condition of evolving, of adapting to future challenges. So the investigations revealed whether and how nature-based design processes could be fitted to under-resourced secondary cities in India, thereby making the cities resilient. So what is the scope of designing with nature in such a context? How, let's say, the combination of traditional forms of managing water with more, introducing more nature-based designs, how actually we can go about those combinations and envisioning forms of innovation along the way. We also studied Dutch ways of transition management that help to prepare a new repair framework that could enable the realization of water sensitivity. So it's not just about transitioning to a full new state, but actually it's about repairing qualities which were lost along the way, let's say along the time. So actually how we could, in that sense, bring back conditions, and especially the dialogue and the relations which somehow were lost in the process of let's say, of fast urbanization, but that are extremely important from a cultural perspective, from a societal perspective, but also from a political perspective to be, let's say, brought forward again, and providing secondary cities. So some of our, let's say, summarizing our outputs, we have of two kinds: a knowledge framework, which then leads to our Compass tool, that would be a public product, and the fit-for-purpose guidelines. So you can see here, the framework actually shows how the different domains of knowledge are integrated, that, let's say, how they enable one another to move faster to the condition of sensitivity, to actually governance, planning, design, infrastructure and engineering, and data management and capacity building. They come in the realization of a water sensitive, let's say, condition for our cities, and how actually those could be this knowledge could be translated into very practical guidelines informing cities. So you can see here from the making of atlases from our different cities, the full mapping, realization of how from a basing level, let's say, understanding how the hydrological basing, it's constitute, what are the qualities, how actually also that translated into in specific forms of, let's say, managing water throughout history, and what could be points of innovation from now on. So again, just to show this sort of transcalar way of understanding water and informing. At the same time, also the work that we, together with our stakeholders, we have done in the co-creation workshops, leading to this idea of framing the transition challenges, vision making, and finally pathways. Now,
Taneha, sorry,
yes.
you have 5 more minutes, 5 to 7 minutes more.
Yes, thank you. So with this, then this actually, it's the, let's say, everything that combined gave us the, let's say, the ground to produce our compass, which I'm gonna introduce now to you. So I'm gonna start with just, we have a small teaser of the compass. It's still in, let's say, in its final fine-tuning and production. We hope to publish online to the public by the end of the project in March 2025. But I would like to show you a teaser of the tool now. So this is how it's going to look like. So we have pathways, discover cities, and the workshops. So there is a lot of, let's say, of different types of inputs that we can have. For instance, we start with the pathways. I'm going to explain this later with a little bit more time. There are either pathways for water equity, safety, or security. You go inside, you choose the type of, let's say, of challenge that you'd like to work with. And then again, going and going. This is a website, basically, the experience as a website. So you go throughout the different points and you can dive more into different types of knowledge, inputs that one can have. So from really understanding, okay, what is the type of issue that we have? How can we go about addressing that issue? Do we have guides for that? Do we have manuals that can support? What type of data also can be available to address that issue? And all of that will be part of the compass. But also, for instance, when you go to the workshops, the same. What are the resources? So how do we, with this, actually, other cities even would be able to as well to engage with the making of such workshops. There is a manual of how to do a co-creation workshop for transitioning for water sensitivity. We have the examples of the outcomes from our cities with a number of resources, again, attached to that. So, for instance, how do you go about the use of maps? How do you go about the use of specific, let's say, data handlings that could also help us in the process of decision-making throughout the workshop? Now, going back to my slides to conclude. So basically this is how, let's say, once it's public, how it's going to look like. So it's basically an online platform, and all of, let's say, the knowledge that I try to, in a nutshell, to explain to you comes down to this. So you either can go by doing pathways. So pathways in terms of water equity, safety, and quality and security. So you go and you see options of combining different, let's say, points of decision that could lead to a certain improved quality in terms of water sensitivity for each city. So the pathway shows you ways of going about a combination of different actions and the output of the combination of those different actions leading to the expected vision. But also you can go about discovering cities. So for instance, we're going to bring to you the 3 cities that we have worked closely with, Bhuj, Bhopal, and Kozhikode. And we can see from the experience of those cities, from the full, let's say, context of mapping the conditions that they have, how actually we can learn what type of data ideally we should be using to inspire this process of transition management. And finally, if, let's say, if a new city, or even if, for instance, Kozhikode or Bhuj or Bhopal would like to go about the workshops again, they can access the workshop part of, let's say, of the platform where we have the full scope of resources that were developed, guiding how to make a co-creation workshop for transitioning to water sensitivity in the future. So just some of the, let's say, of the screenshots of our platform. So you can see here, how do we go about paths towards water sensitivity? So for instance, I would like to combine both water equity and water safety. So protecting against flooding, at the same time improving equity of water. If I chose, for instance, these 2 conditions as start, then I move to, okay, this is the inside, let's say, of my possible line of pathways to go about water equity. And you see here, well, dimensions which are important: transparent water information, interdepartmental watershed collaboration. And if you click then in one of them, it will open other conditions, other qualities that we must have to achieve, for instance, transparent water information dissemination and so on. So it's basically as you click and you move, you have more and more information allowing you to make good choices about, okay, what are qualities with other forms of decision making that the city should make. So the point of the compass is to provide as much information, quality information as possible, which comes from the interconnection between the different domains, and allow cities to, let's say, to act in a practical way on, okay, what to do, who to involve, and how. Thank you, Neha. Thank you so much.
We were on time. Thank you so much, Tanya. I would like to invite Mona, Professor Mona from SEPT University.
Thank you, Neha. And thank you, Taneha, for this presentation. Today, we have with us our very distinguished stakeholders, experts, and panelists who have been with us in this journey of co-creation of the compass and also the project, as Taneha detailed out, that we have been continuously engaging with the stakeholders throughout the duration of the project. So we have representation from different stakeholder spectrum. We have Samrat Basak, who's General Manager Alluvium in India, who will represent the consulting and the think tank side. We have with us Mr. Priyank Khare, who is the State Project Head with All India Institute of Local Self-Government, who will also come up with his views, having worked very closely with the local self-governments. We have with us Mr. Vivek Parekh, who is the Senior Town Planner of Government of Gujarat, Town Planning Valuation Department, and he'll come with his views on the use of this compass. We had confirmation from the mayor of city of Calicut, who has been very actively engaged from day one with the project. But since she is in an important event, Calicut has also been designated as the UNESCO City of Literature, and she is in one event which has spilled over. She will not be able to join us. But so these four stakeholders and experts are going to share with us their feedback and views on the compass. So I would invite Samrat Basak to share his views, please. Samrat, you have about 2.5 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mona ma'am. Am I audible properly?
Yes, you
yes,
are.
you are.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks. First of all, I would like to thank W4C team. I have been involved in this process for quite a long time now, and while not a part of the team, but I still feel that I am almost like a part of the team. So thanks for that, providing that opportunity. Also thanks to DST and NWO for inviting me in this workshop. I think the way I would like to start with that, based on my professional experience, I have learned two learnings over a period of last 5-10 years. One is that while we work with primarily with the tier 1 or the large cities, the metropolitan cities, typically we don't get that tier 2 cities, they don't get that much resources, attention, or even the finance or investment needed to do a proper justice to their urban water management. So that's our first learning. The second learning is that this entire process of urban water management is not always a linear process. It is a complex process. It is interconnected process, interconnected with many things, not just the science part of water management, but the socio-cultural aspect, the capacity aspect, the governance aspect, and so on and so forth. And also it's a bit cyclical. So it needs quite a lot of feedback loop into the process of becoming water sensitive. So with these two learnings, I would try to mention what are the greatest points of water sensitive compass that brings to this entire thought process. I think the first part of water sensitive compass are a transition from a interdisciplinary to transdisciplinary. If we see the evolution of urban water management in India, the last century was more of an engineering based urban water management. The first part of this century, it was more like an interdisciplinary, where the practice based or the scientific and academic base talked and decided on the course of the urban water management. But I think as we move towards the middle of 2015 onwards, we slowly saw that more involvement of the larger socio-cultural context, larger socio-economical context into the decision making, the larger ecological context into the decision making, and probably for the first time the water sensitive compass brings a scientifically rigorous and sort of a framework to see how we can integrate that socio-cultural aspect, the capacity aspect in the larger decision making of urban water management, especially for a tier 2 cities where everything is very limited, resource limitation, financial limitation, and attention limitation. I think that's first very important transformative change, moving from a interdisciplinary to transdisciplinary. The second part is that it talks quite a lot on the governance side. I think our framework talking about or guiding the various stakeholders around the governance aspects to become water sensitive is very important and was missing for a long time. Taneha talked about the co-production. I think it's a very important from a urban water management standpoint that not just the key actors or stakeholders, but the public, the other socio-cultural stakeholders get involved in the process of starting from the vision making to the actual implementation side of projects. Second point, I think this the beauty of this system is the entire context of fit for purpose. I mean, the fit for purpose definition may be very different from city A to city B to city C, and there cannot be one single thumb rule for decision making. A lot of time we follow, the very typical guidelines in the government side, that this is a guideline driven, this has to be the structure of the stormwater management, this has to be the structure of the water supply infrastructure, and so on and so forth. But this fit for purpose definition is very fluid, very agile, so that it can be very contextual to that city. The third aspect is the socio-cultural context I have already mentioned. The other pillar that it touches is the public participation and the capacity building side. While we have been integrating some sort of a feedback loop into the larger urban water management decision making, but the guidance provided through this urban water compass on the public participation and the overall larger aspect of capacity building is significant. My last point with that, what I would like to complete my point of view sharing is that water equity pathway. I think that's a fantastic addition to the larger context of urban water management. While all the cities, especially the large metro cities or even the tier 2 cities, typically see a lot of water inequity in the water allocation, water distribution, and the other decision making process. I think having a pathway to water equity is a fantastic addition. And as a representative of the consulting, I think this entire framework and the pathway and the guidelines will be super helpful in the future course of decision making in urban water management. Thank you.
Thank you, Samrat, for your points and bringing out the transdisciplinary and multidisciplinary aspect of the project, which has been at the soul of project. Right from the beginning, NWO and DST have been driving us for that. And also the fit for purpose and the agility of the compass. Thank you for highlighting that. I would now request Priyank Khare to share his views with us. Over to you, Priyank. You have about 2.5 to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Oh, thanks, Mona ma'am. I think not a lot is left to say after what Samrat has already covered. I think it was pretty elaborate and to the point. What I would compare it with my experiences and what I've been doing in MP, when we had to communicate with the end users and the communities, we really had to deconstruct all the information in such a way that they are able to understand. And sometimes it used to leave us clueless on how to present this information and if there is something like a ready referral for us. And I think I need to congratulate W4C for creating a framework which can be very useful when we go out to the community, or let's say even if we want to have a conversation with the government officials. So the information can be used as a ready referral. It's also very neatly organized, so we don't really have to, in the entire information that we have, it's presented in bullet points. I think the socio-cultural aspect and the fit for purpose pathway is something that Samrat had already covered very wonderfully, is something that we really look forward to, and something we really forget while providing a solution, looking at the end user community. We also tend to forget looking at the intersectoral information dynamics and pathways of how the conversation happens between different stakeholders, and something like the compass can be something that be of great use when we go to the communities. It's also very useful because it gives you an easier access to information and also provides support when we are going forward with knowledge transfer. But these are 2 or 3 things that I really look forward to. I think that network pathways are very important to understand the life cycle of any water-related challenges, and it also becomes a testing platform as well. So in case if you're looking for a certain goal, the pathways can help you try to see how what outcomes could you be looking at, or what could be the pathway to achieve a certain goal. Yeah, I think these are a few points that I felt that I could add after what all the rest of the people have already said. So keeping the time in mind, I'll stop for now.
Thank you, Priyank, for bringing in again the fit for purpose aspect of the compass, which was again one of the guiding principles, and also how it looks at the networks and pathways. So thank you for highlighting that and reminding all of us of that. I would now invite Mr. Vivek Parekh to share his views with us. Vivek, over to you. Vivek? He was on the call.
I can see him.
Yes. Maybe his microphone is muted, or does he have access to the microphone?
Yeah, I'm asking him to unmute.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. Hello, Vivek, can you hear us? He has requested if we can unmute, which we have, but can we help him, Neha?
Yeah, I'm asking him to unmute, so
Okay, thank you.
he needs to do it himself. I can't do it for him, unfortunately.
Yes.
Just press the microphone button.
Yes, Vivek, so it's set from our side, you need to press the microphone. Vivek, can you? I think there is some glitch there, and maybe we can come back to him, maybe after taking a couple of questions. He can hear us, but he's unable to speak. So while we resolve that, maybe we can take a couple of questions. But before we sort of summarize this round, I would like to, we don't have Mayor Madam Beena Philip with us at the moment, but just wanted to highlight that she has shown commitment to the compass, and which is also reflected in their plan of disseminating it with 3 other cities when we close the project towards January or February. So that's something we can share with the group here. Annalie and Taneha, would you want to add anything there about how it's going to be taken forward in Kerala?
Maybe I can do that. So it's quite special in the context of Kerala, because also something that I didn't mention. So the compass being the public, let's say, output of our project that as a knowledge to be shared, let's say, widely, we hope, and to be used to help cities to transition to water-sensitive behavior, society, planning, design, governance, and infrastructural aspects. But also, for instance, we do have other forms of spin-offs that we have been working, especially, as I've mentioned, the scope of capacity building, that we understood that it's so key, and also learning especially from our stakeholders also that are here with us today. So capacity building programs becoming an important, let's say, action to continue after Water4Change, but not only because, let's say, of our project, but especially in the context of really embracing more water sensitivity. So in this light, we have especially Kerala coming from the wonderful involvement with the city of Kozhikode, but also with our local partner, CWRDM. We're going to be developing upscaling workshops. So the idea of upscaling is basically to work with different cities. So to work on knowledge transfer actions. So how the learnings from the cities that we have worked with from Water4Change, actually what can be, how they can inspire, hopefully, how they can inform the fit for purpose, as mentioned, let's say the site-specific decision-making in different places. So in February, we're going to be working with other 3 cities in Kerala in, let's say, sharing the outcomes of the project, and especially sharing the compass and working with them in the use of the compass. So this is a wonderful spin-off. It's a way of continuing, but also it's a way of, especially of further calibrating the work that was done for the compass. So we have done that based on the very close interaction with Bhuj, Bhopal, and Kozhikode. Once we then start the cities, how actually it's sufficiently, let's say, representative of the challenge that we have in terms of water management, or do we also have perhaps to include some other aspects that the compass didn't envision as of now? So that would be very useful as well. So my main point here is, let's say, the learning, so the co-learning, the sharing, the upscaling as being a very important, let's say, action in really transitioning to a better state of water management in cities. So the peer learning, the peer-to-peer learning between cities, but also the point of capacity building. So to use the compass for capacity building processes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Taneha, for bringing in what probably Madam Beena would have said. We have Vivek here with us, and for paucity of time, I would request him to briefly share his views so that we are left with some time for the participants and their questions. Thank you, Vivek, and over to you.
Yes, am I audible, ma'am?
Yes,
Hello?
Yes, very much. Please go ahead, Vivek.
Sorry for the glitch, and thank you for having me and providing this opportunity to be part of this. It was very interesting. I'll kind of go through a few of the highlights that kind of struck me very pleasantly about this entire process and approach towards this preparation of this compass. Importantly, it was good to see the 3 studies that Bhopal, Bhuj, and Kerala cases. So we are discussing about the social and socio-economical aspects related to water cycle and water-centric planning. So if we say Bhopal, where the water is a matter of pride, being the city of lakes, while Bhuj, it is a basic sustenance is the key for the city like Bhuj. So water is important for Bhuj from that aspects, while very differently for the Bhopal. So
And I'll try to, because we are currently, for last week, we are facing quite a different context of rains observed in most part of the cities in Gujarat and central Gujarat. So we again and again kind of discuss this, that whether there is a temporal or say perception shift from romanticism of rain to say concerns related whenever the clouding is there. So how this changes in terms of the way our cities are kind of prepared or responding to this water cycle is very important, and this change is kind of I can see that the compass tries to integrate this kind of aspects to it. And the stakeholders side is very important whenever we are dealing with water or say water sensitivity. I keep saying that the resident neighborhoods are the most valuable stakeholders when it comes to such kind of an approach to planning. So looking at that and the stakeholder involvement in this process, it is a very positive sign and positive. It will lead to a positive outcome then. And we primarily concerned about the statutory plans and say master plans, the conventional development plans. So whatever is not documented or not recognized, it is very possible that over a short period or long period of time, it gets out of the knowledge, and then it creates several new set of problems thereafter. So such approach and such compass can be very useful in that way to the authorities and those who are actually working on the development and regulation of land use and zonings. And lastly, this methodological approach, I would say, is very useful for an authority like us in consensus building, because in absence of any such scientific worked out approach, the decision making becomes very person oriented or very subjective. So such kind of tools are very important for the authority to build a consensus among various levels of hierarchy of the officers and various line departments, as well as various stakeholders which are concerned to it. And it is not a linear model. So that also is very important, because it is a multi-pronged way in which various dimensions related to water safety, water security, and water equities are being dealt with. So these were my few observations in this short period of span. I could kind of reflect on this.
Thank you very much, Vivek, for bringing in the decision makers and how can they use it at a planning level. Thank you for bringing in that aspect. And I think thank you all the panelists for your views and feedback which you have given over a period of time and also today. Over to Neha for taking up the questions.
Yes, thank you, Mona, for moderating the panelists. I have a few questions in the chat box and also some questions that were sent while signing up for this session. So Taneha, there are two common questions from the urban planners, from the urban planning side. So one question I think is already asked also in the chat box by Vatsala. She's asking, can compass be used for water sensitive planning at different spatial scales, like regional level, city level, ward level for flood prone areas?
Yes, thank you, Mona. Thank you for thank you, Neha, for addressing the question. Indeed, actually, it can, and it has been one of the basic points of our research work since the very beginning. How actually to understand not only we come together in different domains, knowledge domains, different disciplines, but also the manifestation of let's say of the knowledge from these disciplines actually happens in different spatial and temporal scales. What do I mean about that? Water comes from a basin level down to sub-basins, micro-basins, to the city, to districts, to street level, to local, to parcel level. So when we manage water, we have we have to act on a systemic approach. We have to act systemically. So to, let's say, to see how actions, what type of decisions, how the decisions lead to actions, to specific interventions on the ground from a regional level, so from a basin level point of view, down to the local specific, let's say it's almost at street or a parcel level, interventions that we might take into account. So the interscalarity of, let's say, in space was extremely important since the beginning in defining how we would go about our joint research and how also we would communicate with our stakeholders and in dialogue with them, understand, let's say, how the best ways to move forward. At the same time, also the temporal dimension, I would like to mention, especially from a planning point of view, so that we brought, let's say, we have been trying to understand what has been the logic of water development in the three cities, so from past to present, how the different moments, societal moments, so the moments, historical moments of important political decisions, important societal and cultural changes actually led to specific choices of water management practices. For instance, now we have nature-based solutions as an important model, as, let's say, guiding how we should go about water management in cities. Water sensitive design, also as was mentioned, which was coined and produced as a concept in Australia, in Monash University, which led to the idea of water sensitivity that also we are exploring in the project. So to understand this logic, this temporal logic of how water management has developed from past to present, which then sets conditions now to foresee different pathways in the future. So the temporal dimension also, it's extremely important, different scales of time, as well informing planning options in the future, as in how in different from regional to city to local level, how we go about decisions leading to specific actions across the different domains, across different stakeholders, and then the choice of interventions. It's a very lengthy reply, but this is, I felt that it's very much on the heart of what we have done. We have been trying to develop and learn in the context of Water4Change.
Thanks, Tanya. I would request you to keep your answers short because we have 3 more questions. We have one question right now from Amita, which is very relevant. She's asking, does the tool specify any mechanisms to engage with people with different backgrounds, such as people with disabilities and their experience? So to basically, how does this tool help to integrate unconventional actors in the decision-making processes, especially from the planning scale angle?
Yeah, so actually from the planning point of view, so the tool helps planners to identify, so which are the sectors that need to be engaged for a more, let's say, smooth and more effective management. Let's say the compass is designed, we used what is called user experience design. So it's designed in a way that actually allows, we hope that actually allows for a quite easy navigability. So once you get inside the platform, it should be easy to navigate from a user experience point of view. There are, let's say, points, of course, of accessibility that maybe this is a very good point that we might take a little bit more into account in the fine-tuning. But we took into account the point that, for instance, we have different languages. India has such a wealth of different cultural let's say, highlights and languages. So this is one of the issues. So we're going to have the tool, hopefully, in some of the, let's say, most spoken languages here. But we have done the tool in a way, again, that somehow we hope that it can be tailored to the user itself. So as the person navigates the website, we'll be able to choose what is more relevant, what can be more informative to, let's say, to the question that the user has. So we hope that accessibility can be tailored in that way, but especially the compass as a guide, it shows connections. It shows, let's say, that there are different sources of information between the different sectors that can be and should be connected, and hopefully the tool shows how and what it's, let's say, the positive outcome of that.
Thank you, Taneha. Unfortunately, the time is up. We have 2 more questions. There is one last question, if you can answer in like 1 minute, is how can this compass help the planners to understand the gaps between the regulatory tools and the intended outcomes? Because the trajectories are basically intended, it's suggestive, but then how does it mitigate the gaps? If you can answer in 1 minute.
So it mitigates the gaps by showing what we call the enablers and the disablers. So it shows how does one sector is helping or not another sector. So the linkage, so in a nutshell, in 1 second, the compass, it's about showing how do we connect and how to improve connections.
If you will take this much time, then I can ask you one last question, and that can be a great end. The last question is, who can own this tool and how can it be maintained?
So all, let's say, from technicians at the different municipalities, but also schools, we hope that actually this can also inform children by means of teachers to get inspired, to know the cities, to know that we are part of this challenge, of joint societal challenge to improve quality of life. So again, as you move between different ways of experiencing the tool, we hope that it can be used for a very wide range of users, and especially to, hope to inform, to help on learning processes, and especially on sharing of experiences and how we can best connect to one another.
So thank you so much, Tanya, for this insightful answers and your presentation as well. I also like to thank all the experts who took their time and also provided their insights on the applicability of the tool. And more importantly, I thank all the attendees who are here, and thank you for asking questions. This recording will be available on the platform of World Water Week. If you have signed up and registered as well. So people who have attended late, you can go back and also check out the recording. And Anili and Tanya have already given their email IDs along with Mona. So if there are any questions or any possible collaborations, you could definitely write to us. And as on when we move ahead with this tool, we would also like to know your viewpoints about it. So thank you so much and have a great evening.